Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight, a brand new week. As we say hello to all of you, my name is Dave Scott, and we got a great show for you tonight. Katie Paige, the first 2 hours. Then hour 3, I'm taking you on a journey of what happened this weekend. You're not going to want to miss that. Trust me. You're not going to want to miss hour 3. In fact, you're not going to want to miss any of this show. But here we are. We're going to get things started. We got all of you here. We got Tim Mothman in the gold medal position, sharing that medal with his goatee. Race fan with a silver. Marty Burback with a nice bronze medal. Thank you, and happy Canada Day for all of our fellow Canadians. Much love to all of you. Robert Lamoth, Paula Foss, Laura Lobbs, and SJ. How y'all doing? Karen in the Woo Train. There she is. Karen will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship. Betty Oliver, usually listening in on Spreaker. She's popping in on the YouTube channel. Hi, Betty. How are you? Sandra Kincaid, good to have you back. Where have you been hiding? So nice to see you. Mike Gerst, how you doing, my man? Good to have you here. And who else is here? Let's say Area 51, the first one in the chat room tonight. Brown Dwarf, how you doing? Thanks for coming on in. Eternity Eternal. Good to see you. Les Paul Holland strumming away on his guitars. Kathy Evans, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Corey. Eric Williamson, how you doing? Swamp Gas Jenkins and Lisa Davey, nice to see you both. T-Bone, my man, how are you? Good to have you here. Let's scroll on down. Let's next say hello to John Lamb. And number 17 in your program, starting at right wing tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, on a brand new 4.5-year contract, because he could do that. Lars Janssen. Thomas Rock, how are you? Thunderhead, nice to see you. As we continue on with roll call, Human Carl has returned, everybody. Human Carl, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. We love you, Human Carl. Chris Laker, welcome to SOR Chat. As we continue on with our roll call, Cosmic Fleur has returned. Cosmic Fleur will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Mama Catherine, mwah! I love you, my dear. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful night. I love it when you're here. I do. Makes me feel all warm. W. David Page, Melvin from Mars, Phyllis Boucher Perry, Nina Williams, nice to have you all here. Roger Murray, how you doing? Good morning, Commonwealth Andrew. Nice to see you. Deanna Ann, looking lovely tonight. How are you? Aloha Dave, nice to see you as well. Ozzy, good to have you here. Roll calls going on great. Willard Wright, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Pam Harris. And Phil the Stalker, good to see you. Scrolling on down, there's Lex Diaz. If you wave at him, he always waves back. Magneticus, how are you? Thanks for coming on in. The Michael Leger has returned to the chat room. Good to see you. All right, Digger Dog, happy Canada Day, even though you're in the U.S. And let's see here. You're not even Canadian, but that's okay. Let's see here. Paul Demon, good to see you. And Edgett, welcome to SOR Chat. Scrolling on down. Next, let's say hello to Cindy and Vanessa. Good to see you both. Parasolo, Paulie Rotterman, good to have you both here. And B, thank you for joining us. All right, let's get the radio side started. Hi, beautiful and talented Kira. How are you? Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are in roll call right before Katie Paige will join us for an amazing UFO type show as we await the arrival of Bill WD-40 to lube us on up. Hi, Chris. Teen, nice to see you. And continuing on with our roll call, Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Continuing on with our roll call. Up next, well, we're caught up. Look at that. Hey, don't forget the Super Chat is open. Hi, Paramarv. Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff in public and actually be proud to wear it outside of a flea market. Let's go, everybody. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. I'm sitting here in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters, as I do each and every night, and I'm welcoming you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on all the major podcast networks. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of UFO and high strangeness tonight. Katie Paige is going to join us momentarily from Rocky Mountain Research, talking about the UFOs. That's UFOs, because that's how you put a UAP in front of UFO. A UFO. That's my new saying now. UFO. Because I hate that UAP term. Oh, I hate it. It's like fingers and nails down a chalkboard. But that's all right. Then in hour 3, Steve Stockton from Tales Untold has another great story for us. We're going to do something different in hour 3 right after Steve Stockton. Instead of going into the UFO report, man, do I got a story for you guys. Oh, do I have a story. You're going to want to stick around for hour 3 because literally, I don't know if I'll ever go into the forest at night again after what happened this weekend. I don't know. I really don't know. I probably will because I'm dumb that way. Maybe it's a death wish, but let's just say that where we were last night, Sasquatch didn't like us being there. No. Stick around for hour 3 to find out about that one. All right, let's move on to tonight's show. Katie Paige has personal ties to a high strangeness ranch in Colorado. In UFO folklore, it was known as the Clearview Ranch, predates the infamous Skinwalker Ranch by at least a decade. This is what helped motivate Katie and her interest in ufology, because she really wants to find answers to all of her experiences and the experiences people like you and me are having. She is Colorado's former state director for MUFON. She was a star team investigator for MUFON and was a lead administrator for the Mars team. She formerly hosted MUFON What's Up radio broadcast. Now she's doing a great podcast with her co-host, a good friend of this show, Jason Giamatti, who grows probably the best mustache in ufology on the UAP Studies podcast. Katie Paige, I love it when you're here. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, Dave? Thanks for having me. And tell me about Happy Canada Day. Is that like the 4th of July here in the States?
Yes, except we don't get fireworks here because people are worried about forest fires.
Yeah, up here too. I'm in the Rocky Mountains. I actually live outside of Colorado Springs behind NORAD at Cheyenne Mountain. And so they're doing something new this year in Woodland Park, and they're doing a drone fireworks show. So that's really going to be interesting. But we're going to do a sky watch that night because one of my interviews I did with an old timer from the Elbert County area, he's in his 90s and he's had many, many mutilations. Up here in Woodland Park, 3 4th of Julys in a row a few years back, boom, 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 cattle mutilation. So
Oh
I
my.
talked to him today. He told us where to go, where these happen, and we're going to be watching the skies, see if it happens
Oh
again.
yeah. Oh yeah. You have to. You
Yeah.
have to. Pardon me if I am fumbling and bumbling all night long. I am still not over what happened this weekend.
Can't wait to
And
hear.
let me tell you this, Katie, because I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give everything away. You know, it's what we call a lead in Radio Land.
Right.
Because I want people to stick around for this. But I will say this. When you are pretty much feeling that you are not the biggest and baddest predator in the forest, you know there's an issue.
Yep.
You know it may be time to leave. And that's what
Right.
happened.
I mean, it's scary enough with mountain lions and bears and even moose. I mean, all animals, quite frankly, coyotes, they are all dangerous. So unless I'm in an RV or something, it's not even camping. It's more like glamping, they say, where you got your TV and your couch and your faux fireplace in the RV. That's my speed. But even
Yeah,
that is
me
like,
too.
you get a little uneasy out there. I don't know. I couldn't do tent camping anymore, not at my age. Forget about it.
Well, I'll take Phil the Stalker's comment in the chat room here. He says, Dave is scared to death about what happened this weekend in the woods in the dark late at night. Yes, Dave is. I'm not afraid to admit that I am scared. I am petrified of what happened and what took place.
And I was going to go to bed early after this because I have a super busy day tomorrow. But now I am intrigued and I'm going to stay up and listen. I have to find out what happened to you.
You know what? I'll even let you stay on with me if you want.
I don't know.
I'll leave that up to you.
Okay.
I'll leave that up to you. But all right, Katie Paige, you are formerly a MUFON. You are someone who's a former state director. I'm going to hit you with something really, really hard off the bat here.
Uh-oh.
And this is regarding your story, your experiences, who you are. For our audience who may not know who you are, and there's probably only about 6 or 7, okay, people listening to this show who don't know who you are. How did this all come about for you? What made you fall in love with UFO investigation?
Well, I mean, just like so many of us, we have experiences that we don't understand and we don't have answers for. So, as a young girl, my mom was dating a gentleman. She worked as a computer key punch operator for United Airlines, and she met a gentleman, and he owned a ranch out in Elbert County, Colorado. And a lot of strange things were going on at the time. It started with strange humming sounds, bangs underground. This was the time from 1975 to 1978 where Linda Moulton Howe got her start out there. She was an investigative journalist out there. And so, I mean, there was, horse. Of course, we have Snippy the horse in 67. I'm actually going to be doing an event with the King family in Alamosa coming up here in a couple months. So I'm excited about seeing them again. I worked with them last year as well. I'm doing an interview actually this weekend with one of the first 3 people at the Snippy Horse event. He is in a rehabilitation center here in Colorado Springs. His name is Joseph Spencer. So being one of the first 3 people, he's like, I want to get the story right because some of the stories on Snippy the horse, or Lady as she was known, was not correct. So we're going to be doing that interview this weekend. So I'm excited about that. But anyway, so there were, strange blacked out military helicopters. Well, I don't know if they were military. We never proven they were military. But orange orbs, craft, even reports of extraterrestrials on the property, large circles on the ground where nothing grew, the mutilations of horse, cattle, cows. So just the whole everything, the trifecta, even Bigfoot sightings. And the Bigfoot that were seen out in Elbert County, they were menacing and like watching and stalking and harassing. So I never knew anybody knew anything about all of this activity out there in Elbert County until 2013. I had joined MUFON in 2012 came in right as a field investigator because I was curious about the phenomenon because of my experiences as a kid. And I bought a book called Hunt for the Skinwalker in 2013. And in that book, and that's by Colm Kelly Hurd, PhD, and George Knapp. And there's a chapter in that book called Other Hot Spots. And I started reading about a ranch in Colorado, and I knew the strange dynamic of the family and the sons and my sister and I. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the ranch. And so in that book, I learned of Dr. Leo Sprinkle, PhD, who investigated the ranch with APRO, along with John Durr, PhD, and Peter Van Arsdale, PhD, and others. So luckily for me, Leo Sprinkle lived at the time. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years back. He was such a great man. But he lived in Laramie, Wyoming. So, 2 weeks later, I was sitting in his office and that, began, researching the ranch, and I haven't stopped since. Just like, Dave, once you go down this rabbit hole, it's taken so many twists and turns. And one of my ultimate questions has always been, is this military black access projects? How much of this is paranormal, unexplained activity, and which came first, the chicken or the egg? And that's what I've been doing ever since, is trying to find those answers.
You have rattled a few cages over the years with your divine way of being able to get information from people. What have you learned the most about not only yourself, but this road down ufology?
Well, lately, I'm really thankful for the opportunity of being on Beyond Skinwalker. And I mean, the title says it all, Beyond Skinwalker. I mean, we all know out there that these high strangest locations are global. They're around the world. So I'm really happy that they're focusing on other places. And that's opened the doors for not only people to be more comfortable in sharing their experiences, but it's opened the door for me as well to go out and talk with and have interviews with other folks. And I think what I've learned, after Contact in the Desert, we drove an hour away to Pioneer Village, or Pioneer Town in California. And I did an interview with he's passed away. He was a CIA high up, actually lived in a compound in Virginia. There was 2 homes. One was the head of Lockheed and this gentleman. Well, I interviewed his widow, his wife, and his daughter, and learning some information about the area. They had a second home in Alamosa, and I've just learned some really interesting connections and ties that have to do with the Elbert County Ranch. And I knew, like, years ago when I went to Dr. Leo Sprinkles, that we knew there was a NORAD. We knew NORAD was aware of what was happening. We knew there was an Air Force connection, and we knew there was a gentleman on the ranch by the name of Warren. His last name's redacted out in the APRO report, but now David Marler has the unredacted APRO. So I'm just chomping at the bit to get out there to New Mexico to get that original document and get that unredacted name to see if I can track that down. But he was a soldier from Camp Carson, and he talked about what sounds to me like MK Ultra kind of stuff going on out there, which was, something. He was at the ranch house. So the first question was like, why are there soldiers from Camp Carson on the ranch property to begin with? But he said he felt something wrong. He wouldn't go into the woods, sort of like you, Dave. He didn't want to go into the woods, and he felt something take over his mind, made him walk towards the woods. It would release him. He would run back to the ranch house, and did this to him 5 times. So, like, what is that about? And in interviewing these people after Contact in the Desert, I'm learning of new things. And it's so interesting because I was watching a podcast the other night, and there were some documents that were brought up in this broadcast, and it had these exact words. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But they were talking about FM that the CIA was using, and it stands for freaking, excuse my language, magic, which was a LSD, peyote, kind of a drug mix that they were experimenting on. The third gentleman that owned that ranch property out there. So my mom was dating Jack from her work, but his that him and his wife were separating. And his wife had another boyfriend. This was the 70s. Don't judge. But she had a boyfriend, and the three of them owned the ranch property together. Well, that other gentleman that owned the ranch property, his name was John. He was Air Force. And he started in San Francisco. So there's some clues throughout the Apple reports and through the research I've done that they may have been experimenting, like with vagrants, people from the state hospital, which my brother happened to be in the state hospital at the time, my half brother. So all these kind of moving pieces. Then you throw in what we're learning about Mount Wilson Ranch, Bob Bigelow, because he owned both Skinwalker and Mount Wilson Ranch. And I was just out there with Jeff and Nick Nack. And if they're watching, hi guys, I just love them to death. But there's these strange connections now with Howard Hughes, that whole area. And, why was Bob Bigelow there? And you have Kit Green and Leo Sprinkle was part of that. Linda Moulton Howe, Bob Bigelow, and all these photographs with all these people. So downstairs in my house, I have a whole wall of like the aviary group and all these different players, just trying to figure out what they were doing, why they were doing it, what are they covering up, all that kind of stuff. So it's just on and on and on and on. But I continue to learn and learn. And the only way you're going to learn new things is to get out there and interview these people that each of these people have just a little clue or a little piece of this kind of convoluted puzzle that is now the Rocky Mountain Ranch,
When you were, learning about this project and the fact that, we all seem to think that Skinwalker Ranch, or many people out there tend to think that Skinwalker Ranch is almost an anomaly of everything that is going on that's weird and strange. But there are dozens of these types of ranches around North America. We just have to find them. I have heard personally in my area, there are 3 ranches that are under review, especially for cattle mutilations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And one of them is suspected to have armed gunmen around it.
That's right. Oh, that was part of my interview too. So these people that interviewed, the CIA people, they owned a lot of the property over the Dulce base. And when they got to their own property, they were welcomed with people armed with guns and weapons. And so I have more information on that through that long interview, and I can't wait to release all that. But it was a really interesting interview. And even Paul Sinclair, he's over in the UK. He has, very similar, even these strange boxes, and we didn't even talk about the boxes yet, but same hum sounds, the boxes, just it's identical. But there's many places, around the United States that have that. I mean, Marley Woods, we have Trey Hudson's down south at the Meadows. We have, Sedona area and the Bradshaw Ranch and the Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch and on and on and on. And so, what do these locations have in common, right?
Well, and that's exactly it. Is it something as simple as weird ley lines? Is it something as simple as the earth has certain auras about it around property and land that cause these anomalies to happen? I don't know. I really don't know. But for you, I want to ask you, because there's a couple questions I've never really asked you. You were a longtime MUFON member, and you recently stepped down. Why did you step down?
I stepped down in December just because I wanted to start up this new Rocky Mountain Ranch research project, and just kind of go out and do my own thing. I've been traveling, I want to get down there to Trinidad and interview and get to meet and talk to the Wilsons. And I needed to free up my time, I guess, is the short answer to that question. And, it's in really good hands. Seth Feinstein has it with his wife Anniversary, and they do a fantastic job. And the Colorado group here is a pretty strong group, so I knew they would be okay. And I'm just on to doing different things. Like you had mentioned, Jason asked me to be a co-host for UAP Studies podcast. I'm really looking forward to that. We actually just aired our first little interview just the other day. It came out today, actually. So, that's going to be fun to do that. I just, it was time for a change, time for something new, and to focus, going back to really my roots, to what I started this for in the first place, which was, to really dig deep into the ranch and other investigations that I'm doing. So I'm really happy about that.
Are you okay to talk about the latest news with former MUFON head Jan Harzan? If you're
I
uncomfortable,
don't. No, I really don't know any. I mean, I don't know really any updates. Is there an update that I'm not
yeah,
aware of?
he
Oh,
was
say I don't even know. Oh,
last
shoot.
week he was convicted
Oh,
uh,
I didn't know that.
of
Live
a
on Spaced Out Radio. I didn't know.
yeah. Last week he was convicted. So 4 years ago, Jan Harzan, the former head of MUFON, who was the head at the time, was forced to step down because he was arrested for soliciting young children. Very uncomfortable subject that nobody likes to talk about. But, and the reason why I bring this up with you, Katie, is not only are you and I, compatriots in this field, but you and I are very, very good friends. I would consider you one of my top 10 friends in
Oh,
this field.
thank you.
And I know I'm down at around 172 for you, but you're top 10 for me.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true.
I know I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. But you and I have always talked about the good and the bad about MUFON. This probably
Right.
being the
The
ugliest
bad,
incident
the worst. Yeah, the
of that.
worst.
What was it like? Now that I've told you he has been convicted, sentencing will be coming up, I believe, between this month and September. What is your thoughts on this? And I have some thoughts I want to share with you, but I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. When all that was happening, I wrote a lengthy letter to the board of directors about my opinions, my thoughts, my feelings about it. And unfortunately, MUFON sometimes has a bad reputation, but there's so many good volunteers in the organization, and I have really good friends in the organization. And there's so many great groups. I mean, Phoenix Group is a good example. Stacy Wright and her group out there in Phoenix, and so I the vast majority of people within that organization are good people that are just in it because they're interested in the phenomenon. That being said, there's some troubles at the top. There's always drama, and I've always just sort of ignored a lot of that and kept my head down and ran this group here. But it's awful. I wrote a letter stating my opinion about it and my hopes that they would be a little bit more diverse in who they have in charge. But I don't know. That's really all I have to say about it. It's a horrible thing that happened, but just because you can't throw away, what is that? The bathtub with the bathwater. What is that saying?
Maybe with the bathwater.
The baby
Well,
with the bathwater. That's it.
and I agree with you too. And as well as I do, and let's just be honest about this. There have been a lot of members in the upper echelons of MUFON who don't like me because I've asked a lot of tough questions. And
Mhm.
you know that, and I know that. We've talked about that privately. But I'm going to defend MUFON on this for a second and hear me out. What Jan Harzan did was thoroughly disgusting. And he deserves whatever he gets in jail for that. Because the scariest part about people like that, you don't know if this was their first time getting caught.
Right. I'm sure not.
Okay. But MUFON, I see a lot of people online trying to say, well, this is all on MUFON. This is MUFON's fault. This has
No.
nothing to do with MUFON.
No.
This was an individual who made extremely poor choices and hopefully pays a long price for his actions regarding this. And I just don't want to, I'm going to defend MUFON on this because MUFON has great people involved in
Yep.
their organization. I may not agree with everything that they do as an organization. I don't like the fact that they lobby for UFO research. They're supposed to be for the people, not for lobbying the government. And I know there's people in MUFON who disagree with that. But for the most part, the people on the board of directors, the people who are state directors, such as formerly yourself and others who I've talked to, they don't need to be associated with this.
Yeah.
This is not what MUFON is about. And I will argue that point for MUFON at any time, as hard as I've been on them. And
That's
as
good.
for Jan Harzan, let's hope that he gets what he deserves. When we return on Spaced Out Radio with Katie Paige, Rocky Mountain Ranch Research, we're going to learn all about it, where she's checking for UFOs, checking for cattle mutilations, checking for high strangeness. all around the beautiful Colorado area. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio right after this. I apologize for having to bring that up, but it is.
Oh, I didn't know. No, I didn't know that he was convicted. So I'm actually really glad that you did. So my shirt's bugging me. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't know that happened. So
yeah. Well, it did. It did.
Huh.
Just in time for the MUFON Symposium.
And I kind of thought, because I mean, we all know Jan, he at least had some money. So I thought, I bet he was, I really thought he was going to get off because of that.
I heard from one source that he is literally, like, no matter when he gets out, he is broke now.
Okay. Lawyers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How sad is that? What a shame. What a waste. And,
well, like
and I wonder about his wife. Did he end up getting divorced? I wonder.
She left him for obvious reasons.
Right.
But I mean, like I said, the scariest part about it is when you've never had a criminal record, like Jan never had a criminal record. When you get caught in something like this, how do we know it's the first time?
Yeah, I'm sure it's. I mean, with those kind of offenses, you can almost bet on that it's not. I mean, that's just the nature of that type of an offense.
Yeah, you don't. You just don't get drunk one night and say, "Hey, I'm going to do this," or "This seems right."
That's why they register these people forever, because they don't turn around. Right.
Yep.
So it's really sad. It's super sad.
I agree. You know,
and heart goes out to all his victims out there.
If there was more,
yeah, it'll mess those people up for the rest of their lives. So,
absolutely. You know, but more importantly, more positively, I'm excited to learn about what you're going to tell us next.
Oh,
I really. I know you've been waiting a while to come on this show to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. It's been really great getting back out there and doing interviews, going back to what I love doing in the first place. Sometimes you get overwhelmed with other projects, and plus, it's no secret. I recently moved and my life went upside down on me. And so there was a lot of adjustments to go through the last couple of years. So it's kind of nice to get back and just to go and talk with people and interview people and research. And I actually have a trip planned in 3 weeks to go back to the Eisenhower archives in Abilene, Kansas. So I'm looking forward to going back into the archives. That's kind of my happy place. It's digging in boxes of old documents. I've been doing that today. Actually, I have a lot of like 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6 banker boxes from John Schuessler's files dating back from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I'm pulling all the documents from the 70s. And there's some really interesting things in there. In fact, I just found, I put it on my shelf right here. I can grab it. I found this today. Let me get it. This was in John Schuessler's. It's the original, one of the copies of the Choppers and the Choppers. And I only had it in PDF form. So now I have it. So I'm like, oh, nice. Treasure. And then another helicopter, another article I found today.
Oh, very nice. Helicopters.
So I've been digging through documents half the day today as well. But I'll tell you what else I was up to today once we go back on, because I'm excited about that as well.
Right on. I am so tired.
Is Kiara in here? Anybody I know in chat? Hi, people.
Kiara's in here somewhere. Mama Catherine,
Yeah.
Who else is in here? Tim Mothman and his goatee are here.
I'm sorry I missed the party this year. That stunk.
That's all right.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, if we do it, I'm still not decided yet.
Yeah.
I'm still not decided yet.
It's hard. Putting together those events is very, very difficult. and with the economy the way it is right now, I mean, living up here in the mountains, going into Divide, things are going to be a little more expensive anyway. But we just ran out of like dish soap. And I went to get a thing of, the squirt,
Yeah.
Dawn dish soap, $7. $7 for a thing of dish soap.
I never thought I would see
Ugh.
$8 for a bag of buns.
I know, bread, sourdough bread,
Yeah. Terrible.
5 something. It's like, I don't know. So yeah, it's getting more difficult to be able to afford to
Hold
go
on,
out
Katie.
all these conferences.
Here we
Okay.
go. Thank you, T-Bone, for our lone super chat. Let's get her going right now. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. You got your tinfoil on? I hope so, because we're getting into some UFOs and strange stuff with Katie Paige momentarily. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Get your horns up and rock out to Bumblefoot. Our newswire's there. You can check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From Rocky Mountain Ranch Research.com. Katie Paige is here. She's also the new co-host on UAP Studies podcast with Jason Giamatti and his beautiful mustache. Katie, what do you think of Jason's mustache? Let's just be honest.
It's great.
It's a great lip blade.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I had so much fun hanging out with him and his wife, Lisa, at Contact in the Desert, getting to know them. And then, of course, our other co-host, Michael, he's fantastic as well. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, the three of us. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Jason is a wonderful guy.
He's got a good heart. He's just in it for all the right reasons. And I love that. And I appreciate that. So
agreed. And that's how you move it forward, is by getting involved with good people. Jason's definitely good people. That's for sure. That is for sure. All right. I want to get into, what is Rocky Mountain Ranch Research?
Well, it's my baby. It's kind of taken the culmination of everything I've done. So I have Rocky Mountain Ranch Research.com.net.org. I think all three of them work. I hope anyway. Let me know if they don't. And I also have KatiePaige.net. You can find more information about Rocky Mountain Ranch Research there, as well as my Facebook. There's a Rocky Mountain Ranch Research Facebook, and you can follow me on Facebook and other platforms as well. But in a nutshell, I just had this vision. Instead of doing I used to do the MUFON What's Up with KGRA and Bill and them. Shout out to all those guys. But it was time to kind of branch out and do my own thing. And instead of doing a traditional podcast like this on my own, I thought it would be more fun. And whoever thought at my age I'd be a content creator, but here I am. I have my degree in visual communication. But I'm mostly focused on, Photoshop and in design, because I was doing more logo type works, and I worked for Travel Host magazine and things like that. So I didn't pay much attention in class as I should have to Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe After Effects. So I'm relearning all of that. And that's been a learning curve all week. I've been pulling my hair out and watching tutorials on YouTube and stuff on certain things. But it's been a lot of fun. So my goal is to take everybody out there along with me as I research. And, what better way to do that but to bring cameras and mics, and we even got a drone now to go overhead. And so this video I just finished today, and I'm really excited. It's the second video I did, and it's called The Elk Hunter UFO Encounter. So in doing Beyond Skinwalker, there's a location that we met for our first episode, and I got to meet this wonderful couple. And He is a longtime resident of Elbert County, goes back generations, interviewed his mother as well. And he's an avid, he actually makes guns and has a shop. He's an ex-firefighter. He's a very credible guy, and he hunts elk. And we just got to talking about all the high strangeness in the area. And he shares with me, as a matter of fact, let me get the drawing. This is his drawing. He shares with me an encounter he had while elk hunting in this episode that I just put out there today. So you can find it on YouTube. It'd be very great if you guys if you could put the link in your chat or something. So we could get some.
Tell our radio audience what your link is.
Well, let me grab it. Hold on. YouTube. See, I'm new at this stuff, so I need all the help I can get. If you can like and share and follow, it would be great, because I'm a newbie to all of this. How you make little, let's see. Let me find it for you. I'll get it to you here. I think I sent it to you. View your channel. So maybe you can just research. It's called Beyond Skinwalker Elk Hunter Sighting Rocky Mountain Ranch, but I just put it out a few hours ago. And it's my interview with this gentleman. And even in the daytime in Elbert County, armed, because he's hunting, he's even a guide for big, the hunts. But he said there's areas that he won't even go into in the daytime. And this area we went to is one of them. But he drew me this picture. This happened, I don't know, let me see if I get, there we go. This happened November of 2021. He was out elk hunting. His truck was parked, and you'll see it in the episode. But he's walking back to where his truck is parked, and it was dusk, so just getting dark. And he sees an orange glow in the trees, and he says it was like two bunt cake pans on top of each other. The top was spinning counterclockwise, the bottom was spinning clockwise. And he watches this thing for about 10 seconds and gets very uneasy, walking faster to his truck, looks back, and the thing just vanished. No noise, no sound, nothing. And what's really cool, when we went out to interview with him, he had never walked back to where it was actually located. So in that episode I just released a few hours ago, we actually walk back to that place. We come across also upon a dead young elk with broken ribs and broken legs. And, I'm not saying it was a typical mutilation, but interesting, because in that area, he talks about, they'll have to call the game wardens, because they do have mysteriously dead elk that are like cattle mutilations, and they'll take these elk out of there. So people will think of mutilations as being just, cows, but horse, sheep, goat, elk, deer, wild game. And just Paul Sinclair's, I think recently they had a seal that was mutilated, blood drained, cauterized, and kangaroos as well. So many different types of animals are being mysteriously treated in this way. So we came across that. But in interviewing this gentleman and learning about the area, learning about the Palmer Divide, which I think has something to do with the high strangeness, is very similar to the Archuleta Mesa in Dulce, New Mexico. It's very similar to the Uinta Basin by Skinwalker Ranch. These areas all are highly magnetized. They all have high magnetisms. They most often will have aquifers and water features, just like in David Pilates' Missing 411. And he even talks about, the aquifers there in this area, and they all have certain minerals, right? Limestone and granite and quartz crystals, just like even with the paranormal. And I love the paranormal stuff too, because that's part of the hitchhiker phenomenon. So I was sort of interested in the paranormal world before the UFO world. Was a huge fan of the ghost hunters and did a couple events with them at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park. And they talk about that. They talk about the water around the Stanley Hotel, the quartz crystals and the limestone, amping up this activity. So it was a fantastic day. It was a cool adventure. Before we went to the location with my witness, the elk hunter, we went to the Rocky Mountain Ranch from my childhood and met Greg, the owner of the ranch. And he took us four-wheeling all around the backwoods, which I had not done. The second episode for season 2 that I'm in is actually airing tomorrow night on History Channel. I have not seen it. I don't know what made the cut. And, non-disclosures, I can't really talk about everything that happened. I can tell you that it's called The Landing Site, so I know what it's about. But they spent 2 weeks out there filming, and my sister came with me this time, which was fantastic. Took a little convincing because, she doesn't want anything like the hitchhiker thing that has affected me to affect her. But she went and we had a great time, and it was super awesome to have the sisters back there and to share that experience with my sister. So I'm excited for that. She will be in the second episode for season 2 for the Rocky Mountain Ranch. So like all of you, I'll be watching tomorrow night for the first time to see what made it. And I think just based on the little clip I saw of the teaser on the landing site, and I can't get into too much detail because it hasn't aired yet, but let's just say the medical guy had to drive me back to my hotel because I had some health effects that happened, and I was trying so hard to be tough and fight through it. So I'm standing there, and they, Paul and Andy have the table set up, and we're going to do some communication and sky watches and different experiments. And I'm trying to fight through this pain that I'm having. And I'm like, I guess I'm a little embarrassed that it's going to be in the episode. But what was interesting about that experience, Hillary is a sound person for Beyond Skinwalker and History Channel. She's done numerous different shows, and she's so cool. I like Hillary a lot. But she had just put fresh batteries in everybody's mics and everything. And when I was having that happen to me at the landing site, the battery went from 100% to 50%. And then Paul walked me back to the barn, which was only a couple minutes. And from that to the barn, it drained all the way down from 50 to nothing. Everybody else's batteries stayed at 100%. So that was a little creepy and scary. I don't know what that is.
We were having that happen to our lights out in the forest.
No way. Really?
Yeah. Example, last night when we were setting up for experimentation, brand new battery on a lighting pad that was on a tripod. Battery should have lasted 2 hours. Mm-hmm. It lasted less than 15 minutes.
Right. You see that a lot, don't you? Yeah, you see that a lot. Just, even the drones are malfunctioning, the rockets are malfunctioning, mics, anything. What is that about? I'm not sure, but it certainly happens often enough to be significant.
Oh, it's just adds to the freakiness.
Yeah, freaky.
Adds to the freakiness. And the cameraman we used, complete professional. He's literally a videographer instructor at a college in San Francisco. And nice. He's never seen this happen to batteries before.
Right.
In his 20-year career, he's never had this happen to batteries. What was happening to us in the forest.
Right. That's something else. And I can say they had, I think I'm okay saying this because I'm not going to tell you the results of it, but it was really cool to meet because I was a fan for a while and still am. I just don't have cable like I used to. So I'm not caught up on all the seasons. And I know there's a lot of seasons now. I don't even know how many seasons of Oak Island, they're still looking for that dang thing. But the ground penetrating radar guys from Oak Island were at the Rocky Mountain Ranch. And I can't tell you what they found or didn't find, but they were super nice, and it was cool to meet him and everything. So that was really fun. And filming with those guys is a lot of fun. Like it's, they're just filming constantly. So just like you guys, I don't know, they have to get a week's worth of filming for one episode down to 44 minutes. And that doesn't include like they talk about it with Travis Taylor, and then they debrief with him at the end. So really you're looking at maybe 30, 35 minutes for the content. They got to get all that stuff into that amount of time. So it's always interesting to see how they put it together. And of course it's a television show, so it has to all kind of flow and make sense, logical sense to what they're doing at the Skinwalker Ranch and on the other locations. And it all kind of has to tie together. Otherwise it's just a scrambled mess. And I understand that they have to do that. So there's some things that, I've talked about and I filmed about, like the boxes, let's say, and they're like, well, they haven't even touched on that yet because it doesn't fit into any of the storyline, so maybe someday they'll get to that. So there's so much more that goes on at these high strangest locations that don't even make these shows. And it's so interesting. I try not to read a lot of the chatter about these different shows, because some of it can kind of be negative, or, oh my gosh, it's all faked or whatever. I'm here to tell you it's not. There's even more that they can put in there that they don't. Like in season 1, when I was doing that radio experiment, we were getting transmissions on the radio about the Vietnam War. They were getting strange sounds in the houses, like clicks and stuff, and almost like a Morse code. None of that even made the episode, and I was astonished by that. Not to mention, in season 1, they had David Morehouse do the biggest remote view at the Elbert County Rocky Mountain Ranch ever done in the history of the United States. And there's actually a clip. If you go to History Channel season 1, you can see a bonus clip with David Morehouse. And I do believe that he'll be in tomorrow. I think they're bringing him back into season 2, which I'm really excited about, because I think they were so overwhelmed with the amount of data that he got from, he had over 70 remote viewers from several different countries remote view this location. And the cool thing about that is they remote viewed the scary night that we had on the ranch. It was the scariest night. Me and my sister were there. It's when we heard the hum, the lights went out. We had the disembodied electrical sounding voice. Your friends will be warned never to talk about us, blah, blah, blah. Now, in my research, though, I don't think that's extraterrestrial in nature. I think that was military in nature, and I think they were experimenting with plasma ball technology out there. For whatever reason, I think that area, the Black Forest, the Elbert County area, is really close to the Air Force Academy and NORAD and Camp Carson and Scrivener and Butte. I think they were doing some early laser technology, some earlier plasma ball technology, testing, and maybe we were test subjects, unwitting test subjects to some of this activity. That's, I really believe that was going on out there. And I have little pieces, little clues that tell me that that's probably likely.
The idea that you have this ranch, that you have the ability to study and talk to people about this, what makes this, you've talked about how similar it is to Skinwalker Ranch and others, but what makes this so different about what's going on? What makes this unique?
Well, I don't know if it's so much unique. I think they all have very similar phenomenon going on. And in fact, last week I was talking to Linda Moulton Howe on the phone, because she's noticing an uprise in mutilations. And in talking with some of the people and some of the neighbors in Elbert County, we just had a recent mutilation reported to MUFON. I'm not on that case, but there is another one that I got from my elk hunter witness. A friend of his had a mutilation in the daytime of a over $5,000 bull. And they always, because they're very expensive, they check them in the mornings, they check the bull in the morning. In the afternoon, that bull was mutilated. In the middle of the day, miles off the main road, no helicopter, nobody around, no tracks, animals wouldn't approach it, cauterized, blood drained, the whole thing. So I'm kind of sharing that information with Linda Howe right now, because she, and I think she's talking with Paul Sinclair and others, trying to see if we're in an uptick swing in mutilations again. And so I guess what surprised me in doing Beyond Skinwalker and kind of getting out there, I wasn't sure the activity was still active like it was in the mid to late 70s when I was young. I didn't know if things were still happening. But being on those shows has given me the exposure where people are coming forward and sharing their current experiences. And I'm like, holy cow, this stuff's still going on. And so it's opened the door for me to get out there and watch the skies and talk with people and investigate and take readings. And that's what I'm trying to do with Rocky Mountain Ranch Research. I'm in the process of making it a nonprofit so I can get funds raised to get good equipment to go out there and kind of replicate what they're doing on Beyond Skinwalker, because I think that's really important data to have, to replicate things over and over. And it's a tricky phenomenon to do that with, as you know well, Dave, because it's trickster. They play tricks on you. I think they know when we're trying to measure, or they know when we're trying to watch. And so you're not always going to have, experiments that you can replicate over and over. It's not like we can call this stuff on demand, but we can do at least whatever we can with what we know and try to get data that way. Because I think both things are important.
You're kind of the leader on the block for investigating this ranch. Yes, there are others who know about it. It's not like it's a big secret like Skinwalker. Right. Why do you think that this ranch and what's happening, it's great to be a little bit more transparent than what we're getting out of what we want to know is happening at Skinwalker?
Well, I don't know. I think, if I get too close to learning something I shouldn't know, I will most likely be approached, right? And so far that hasn't happened. And actually, I get a little, like in season 1, I had some radiation burn on my shoulder. I think I shared that with you, Dave, right? The photograph of what happened that night. And, other interesting things that have followed me to the house that are more paranormal in nature. And I'm always curious as to why, like, they're not more interested in this stuff. Like if they're truly interested in it, wouldn't they want more information? And that tells me one of two things: A, they don't care, or B, they know the answers, or they know more and they're not telling me, right? That's what it seems like to me. So I don't know. I just kind of just do my thing and find my own answers, because I'm not going to get it out of the people I'd like to get it from. No way is anybody going to come forward and say, oh yeah, we were back there, in the doing MK Ultra stuff and experimenting there. I'm never going to get the truth. So I just got to keep digging, I guess, is the way I look at it.
What do you
I don't wait around for the government to tell me what's really going on.
True. What do you want to find there?
The truth. I want to, here's what I'd like, and people talk about, like, disclosure means different things for different people. For me, disclosure is, what were you guys doing out there? Were you doing plasma ball technologies? Were you taking people out of the state hospitals? And were you doing experiments on, vagrants and people? I mean, we know they were on the ranch. Why were they there? What are you doing to them? I think there's a huge liability issue there. But I also, that being said, that's just a part of it. In looking at the long history of the property, we know, like Dick Mulligan, it was known as the Mulligan Ranch or the Mulligan Homestead. And Dick Mulligan was born and raised on the ranch. And if you look on any Google search, you can go Dick Mulligan Winter Park Ski Resort. And Dick Mulligan, when he was older, he worked at Winter Park Ski Resort up here in the Rocky Mountains as a caretaker, and they actually have a black ski run named Mulligan's Mile after him. And they talk in that article about how Dick was known for bold exaggeration in these wild stories that he would tell. And in my mind, he's born and raised on the ranch property. I think he was trying to tell people the weird stuff that was going on, not to mention the whole Native American connection to the land, right? That goes back. I mean, the Sand Creek Massacre and, the Ute, the Pawnee, the Cheyenne, Comanche, they're all, nomadic tribes around this area hunting for buffalo and elk and that. So I do think there's possible elk connection. And that's why I like this episode that just came out, the elk hunters episode, right where he saw this thing. And we went back in there. There's an elk trail. So you can see where the elk walk quite frequently, right where that thing was. And if you look at the 1974 Carl Higdon case out of Rawlins, Wyoming, he encounters a box, he encounters these beings, and he was out elk hunting. David Pilates talks about an elk connection. So I think, this is where we're going to find these connections. Oh my goodness, we have elk here, elk here, elk here. We have boxes here, boxes there. Like, what is all this and what are they doing? What are the boxes for? I hope to learn that too. What are these strange boxes that people are seeing and have seen? What are they? What do they do? Who are they connected with? Are they something that we have, or is it something that they have?
Well, and that's a big question is what is it really? Is it ours? Is it theirs?
Right.
Is it alien? Is it anything else?
I think it's both. It's both.
You think?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if I'm talking about Rocky Mountain Ranch, I think both things are happening simultaneously.
Well,
then became the chicken or the egg, right? which came first.
Let's come back on that. Katie Paige,
Okay.
Rocky Mountain Ranch Research.com is her website and YouTube channel. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio with Hour 2 and Katie next. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. Hi, Katie.
Hi. I think that was a good song. Is that Bumblefoot?
That one, no. That
No,
one's I
I
got
like
off
that.
YouTube.
It's a good one. That's all the stuff I'm learning too, is like all these, like, I don't know all the different platforms. I don't, all the little,
It's a pain in the ass.
it's like a lot to learn in a short amount of time.
My phone hasn't rang for any advice. I know I'm 172 on your list of friends.
No, that's not true at all. I actually thought about that, but I know you're a busy guy and I knew you were out there filming. So, because I'm like, Dave would know how to do, I mean, even like the little, I don't even know what they're called. The little thumbnails. That's what they're called. The little thumbnails you make for the YouTube videos and all of the bells and whistles.
You and I will
oh my God.
You and I will talk this weekend and I'll get you all set up. How about that?
Okay, good. Because it's a lot. And I'm just starting out and
we'll get you.
There's so much. And I think, it just seems to me like I'm dating myself here though, but it's like every week there's just something new. It's like we're being bombarded with all this information constantly. It's overwhelming sometimes.
Truth. Katie, I just got to take a little bathroom break. I'll be right back. I'm just going to put you in the green room. Be right back, everybody. All right, I'm back. Let's bring Katie back in.
All right.
All right.
All right. I can tell you about what happened on the Hollywood Disclosure panel at Contact in the Desert. It was pretty cool. In fact, that's what my first episode on Rocky Mountain Ranch is all about. So we could talk about that. It was one of those weird synchronistic kind of meant to happen moments in life.
Nice.
Which seem to happen more and more when you get into this stuff. Have you noticed that too? Like
Always.
synchronicities?
Always.
Isn't that a fun part of this?
5 seconds. Oh, I love it. Here we go with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Katie Paige is our guest tonight. We'll get her momentarily. But first, hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network, so you can check us on out. All right. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hematogenesis. Yeah, there it is. Hematogenesis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Rocky Mountain Research. Katie Paige is here telling us about the strange ranch that she is checking on out. Katie, thank you so much for being here. Always appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Always.
Can I share what happened at the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance? Steve Bassett and Dan Harari run this group, and I think their mission is kind of, if there's going to be content out there, let's try and get it leaning more towards the truth, because the truth is interesting as it is. We don't need to sensationalize anything. It's sensational already. Anyway, so that's kind of their goal and mission, and you can check out their website at Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, I believe.com. But they had a panel, and I was invited to sit on the panel, and that was quite the honor. And at the last minute, I can't remember who it was that wasn't able to make the panel, but they had Earl Grey come on. And Earl Grey is the state director out there in California for MUFON, and he's also on the ERT, and he's just a super great guy. I love Earl. Do you know Earl Grey Anderson?
Earl is amazing. I love him.
Yeah. He's just a super, super great guy. And so he's on the panel, and he's sharing his story of why he's involved in the phenomenon. He's sharing the story of his mother, who happened to work for one Howard Hughes. She, would sit in the room and through the speakers, because the years that she worked for him, it was when he was isolated and had his OCDs and his compulsions and that. And so when Earl was a little kid, she tells her son something that she wasn't supposed to, thinking her son wouldn't remember, her son being Earl. And she talks about being taken to somewhere in the desert and goes into this elevator shaft that goes down, 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 so much that her stomach had butterflies in it. It was like, whoa, where are we going so deep underground? And I'm sitting on the other side of the table. So Earl's on this table, and I'm on this table over here separated. I'm listening to his story about his mother in this secret place underground. She's not sure where it could be, this Howard Hughes connection, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I think I might know where that's located. Because just a month and a half, 2 months prior, I was out at Mount Wilson Ranch for the first time talking with Jeff, and kind of knew the history of Bob Bigelow and the Howard Hughes connection around the Mount Wilson Ranch area in Pioche, Nevada. Howard Hughes basically owned that whole area, all this land. And this last time on the way back from Contact in the Desert, we stopped at Mount Wilson Ranch again. I had a great time. But Jeff is showing us, and you can see it in the first episode on Rocky Mountain Ranch Research YouTube channel, the interview I had with Earl and with Jeff and on location to see the Howard Hughes runway. So you see the runway, it's huge where the trees are. I mean, all the trees are still cut away. If you look at it over Google Earth, you can see it. But what's really interesting is the road, the only road outside the runway curves into, it only goes to Mount Wilson Ranch. So they were going to Mount Wilson Ranch back in the day. I don't know what they were doing out there, but when they're digging for Beyond Skinwalker at Mount Wilson, they're pulling up just all sorts of very interesting things. And in that video, you can see this ornate, it looks like something you would see in Italy or something. And that's how Earl's mother described it. She said down deep underground in this underground city where she worked, there were like yellow umbrellas, and she thought it was funny because why would you have umbrellas underground? But they wanted the ambience to be charming underground, and they had a hair salon. So Earl's like, well, my mother was down there long enough that she had to have her hair done, and so all these connections, and it makes me wonder what actually is underground at Mount Wilson Ranch. There's something, and they're digging, and it's pretty exciting. And there's definitely a Howard Hughes connection, and maybe it's old aircraft. I don't know, but it was just a really crazy moment to go, oh my gosh, I think I might know where your mom was taken, and it was really exciting for Earl as well.
It's amazing how those synchronicities work.
Yeah,
where just one innocent conversation turns into a whole new lead.
right.
Does that happen to you often?
Well, the craziest thing that literally, and I've never really shared this before on radio or podcast, so I don't think I have. But the craziest thing, and it really changed my whole outlook on the nature of reality itself, because I don't know how this ever happened or how or why, unless we're living in a simulated matrix or a video game reality or something. Because what happened is I was invited to speak. This was a couple years ago in San Francisco for Lori and Fenton, that conference she does there in San Francisco. And Paul Hynek was there, the son of J. Allen Hynek, and Mary Edwards. And Mary Edwards had written a book for children on UFOs and things, and she's just wonderful. And so we were talking about how we were all born in Illinois. So it was this like little Illinois club. We're like, oh, okay, because I had moved out to Colorado in 1970, and but I was born in Illinois. And Mary and I was telling them about my grandfather's sighting in Wisconsin. He had a house in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and my grandfather was in the Navy, and he had a sighting of an oblong-shaped craft over Lake Como in Wisconsin. And he reported it, and it was investigated by J. Allen Hynek. So there's Paul, and I'm like, well, that's so weird. Your dad investigated my grandfather. Like, how cool is that? I hope I can find that report, that original report. It would be really great to have for the family archives. And then Mary says, well, we had a second home in Lake Geneva. Mary actually helped design the interior of the International Space Shuttle. So she comes from a very interesting background, very interesting family. And they had a second home in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And for whatever reason, no presentation I ever gave before that one in San Francisco or none after, I had created a special little video about my half-brother Gary, who was an arsonist. He burnt down our house in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and he burnt down a house we had here in Colorado. And that's why he was in the state hospital. He had some mental issues and would start fires. And so Mary says to me, you're kidding me. We lost our home to a fire in 1965. That's the year my brother burnt down our house in Lake Geneva. So we looked at old newspapers from back in the day. My half brother burnt down her family's home in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin in 1965. Here we are in 2022 in a hotel in San Francisco. I had put this love, healing, and forgiveness from the other side, because when my brother passed, I started seeing the number 333, 333, 333. I was seeing dimes. I was getting eagles, and I had put an eagle on his headstone because he had such a hard life here. He was in halfway houses and state hospitals. He never had a normal life. So I'm like, now you're your soul is free to soar, and you're you're not connected to any of that bad stuff anymore. And I had forgotten actually that I put the eagle on his headstone. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was getting eagles flying right over my head. And what are the chances of that? So there I am giving the presentation. Mary walks in the door. I come off the stage and I have tears coming down. She has tears, and I hugged her and I said, my brother is sorry for burning down your family's house in 1965. And ever since that day, I'm like, nothing surprises me anymore. There's no such thing as coincidences.
That is just way too weird.
Yeah, it was wild. And still, Mary and I talk. We're like, can we even believe we have this connection now? I mean, how does that even happen? I don't know how that happens.
I get it. Nobody
Yeah.
knows how that happens. Do you think that is just part of the phenomena that we just will never really truly understand?
I think it is the phenomena. I think the more I research, the more I talk to people, the more I learn and listen and watch. I mean, one great thing about conferences is hearing what other people are doing, because sometimes as researchers and investigators, we get so caught up in our own stuff, we don't have time to go see what everybody else is doing. But I can recall way back when Lou Elizondo came out at a MUFON symposium, and he said, in a year from now, we're going to be having a fundamentally different conversation. And in that moment, I thought to myself, you know what? It's not the aliens and UFOs that's the secret. It's, well, number one, it's liability and Black Access projects. But number two, it's the nature of reality itself and our consciousness. And I believe that we all play such a big role in these phenomenon, because something that I've seen as a MUFON investigator and just an investigator, or just in general, is that we have input into what happens. Like if you go out an investigation, like I'm anxious to hear what happened to you, Dave, because there's something to be said about your own beliefs, your own expectations. And of course, this piece of disassociation. I mean, there's been books written and studies, even back to the days of Freud, that say that when people dissociate, whether it's through out-of-body experience, meditation, near-death experience, trauma is a huge piece, and you disassociate out of your body, which I did as a young girl because of the fires and because of the violence and because of all that stuff that was going on, alcoholic father, on and on. I would disassociate a lot and leave my body. And when you do that, I feel you tie into something else, and that never leaves you, that whatever that thread is. But I also think we play a role, which would answer a lot of questions. If we're in a simulation, if this is not a base reality, that would explain all the different types of craft, all the different types of ETs, all the different, the variants of all these different cases. I mean, yes, there's similarities across the board, but there's also these variants. And how do you explain that? Well, that would explain that, in my opinion.
I would totally hammer your opinion on that. It totally would. Do you think then that the phenomena is directing you to continue this, whatever this is, this research that you are doing, this very important job that you're basically volunteering for?
100%. 100%. Just a while ago, like several months back, I was going to quit all of this and sell life insurance. And I started the courses and I was going to be done. And, because I had some life changes, and I'm like, well, dang it. I, need to do real life. I can't be doing this fantasy life anymore. And it was at that time I got a phone call from a good friend and offered me this, position doing sales and that, in the field for contact and that, which was a blessing. And not only that, but even today and going through and like finding this, for example, like I feel like sometimes I'm led to certain documents or articles or people when I meant to meet them or see that bit of information. It's the weirdest thing. It's like I've looked through this pile 10 times before and I never noticed this thing before. And then all of a sudden, there it is, like when I need it or when it's going to connect. It's as if it's being orchestrated by somebody or something else. It's a really interesting part of the phenomenon too, So yeah, I absolutely think that for whatever reason, here I am and I'm not going anywhere because it won't let me go anywhere. It's like, no, you're going to. So here, that's what I'm doing.
Good for you. Good for you in doing that. We're going to get to some audience questions here in a bit, but getting back to the ranch, outside of UFOs, what other phenomena is happening there?
Well, I don't know. There's just weird electoral, like the battery drain, for example. That's odd. Paranormal stuff, and it's interesting talking with Greg. So I felt different just when I was back there like a week ago, and the cameras and the crew and everybody isn't there. That's the first time I kind of just been there, with a very small group of people, and like less than 5 people. And so I was able to take my time and go to locations where I didn't feel the pressure with the camera crew and all that. And I went into the house and I'm like, okay, I remember the boys' bedrooms here, but it's different now. And on the show, I really couldn't take the time to talk to Greg about what had changed. I'm like, here's how I remember it. There was a window here and a window here, but there was a room here. And he goes, well, yeah, there was. Now it's a bathroom. And now they added a whole addition onto the side of the house. And where the door is used to be the window. So I'm like, and then that's going to be my next episode that I make for Rocky Mountain Ranch Research, is me actually going there with Greg and finding the actual location of the box that I saw as a girl, and actually going into the house and going, oh my gosh, you see Greg. And as we're on camera with Greg, I'm like, hey, does anything weird happen here? And most of the time he's like, yeah, no, not really. No, I'm busy working on it. But then you talk with him and you walk with him and he'll share stories. So we're in there, and in his big master bedroom that he made right by where that all happened with, the disembodied voice and that scary night, he has 2 skylights in his master bedroom, and he's talking, and I have it and I'm going to share it with all of you in one of my episodes. But he's like, yeah, it was weird. One night, these just big bright lights. He goes, it wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't anything, come shining down in his skylights. And I'm like, you're kidding me. I thought you said nothing happened. That's exactly what we saw. The big bright light, brighter than the sun, out that window. Same place. So he witnessed that as well. So things like that. The hum. He's hearing the hum. These strange dead creatures or fish looking things with little, I don't know what they are. They're weird looking. He has a picture. He has one frozen in his freezer, just washed up on his little pond. And most of the time the pond is dry. It was a really wet season, so there's water in the pond. So yeah, there's just different weird things like that. Weird sounds, like even when we were shooting the rockets, the rocket guys and I were shooting the big rocket off, and we hear what sounds like it. To me, it sounded like a dang pterodactyl right in the tree line. Like, you've heard it, Dave, right? Just weird crypto sounds and things like that. So there's still stuff happening.
Do you get a lot of paranormal activity there?
Yeah, he, unfortunately, Greg lost his wife, Chris, right after they filmed episode 1. And in fact, season 2 was dedicated to Chris. And now that he's lost her, but even before that, when I met Chris, and she was a beautiful woman, just lovely to get to know. But she would see the shadow, what she called, they were small. They weren't very big. So she would see these shadows, and Greg sees them as well. So, and it's usually just in the main part of the old house. So the original house, from my memory, is still there, but it's within addition. So they added out on the left side of the house and the right side of the house. So, and you're welcome. Thank you yeah, that's nice. Thanks.
Wow. That is incredible. What do you want to see there? What's your goal?
Well, the more and more I go back there, the more and more nervous I get, because the first time I got that thing on my shoulder that I'm not sure if it was a radiation burn or something, literally looks like fingers on my back. And then this last time something happened physically with me. So and even this episode I just released today, going to the site with the elk hunter, I got that same pain when we got to the location of the craft. So I don't know what that is about, but the more I'm getting this pain in the head and these things, the more I'm getting like, oh, it kind of worries me a little bit. And John Dover, when I was out in Phoenix, he helped walk me through some protection rituals I can do. And I do my best to do that. And I always go in with, good intent and try to protect myself, but there's still a risk. And I worry about that risk a little bit. But I don't know. I'm hoping to, gosh, that's a good question, Dave. Nobody's asked that to me before, like, do I want to make contact? I'm not so sure I do. like what happened to you just this last weekend, right?
Oh,
Like, I don't know. I guess for me, I want to know what I experienced as a young girl happen, like it actually happened and it happens to other people. I want to not feel alone. I guess that's what it really boils down to if I really think about it. And I've never been asked that before. Um, and for me, seeing that book for the first time, that was the first step towards that. I'm like, oh my gosh, because it was such a secret. We were told never to talk about it. Me and my sister like would talk like pig Latin to each other. And it was this thing I never told anybody. And when I was young and I would try to tell people, they would make fun of you and tease you. So I learned to shut up about it really young. And I guess for me now, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I'm not in this alone. This is happening to other people. And what is happening to us? What is this that is happening to all of us? What is it? Why is this happening? I don't know. I guess that's what I'm hoping to find answers to.
so it really is, as we got about 2 minutes left here before we got to go to break. It's a personal quest.
Yeah,
Like in
for sure.
in the end, and I have no problem saying this. I host this radio show to inform people, but deep
Right.
down, it's therapy for me
Mhm.
and personal for me
Right.
that I do this in order to learn what's going on with me as well. So it's the same
100%. Yeah, 100%. It is personal. And I even say, I'm like, selfishly, I go to the archives to find stuff about my own stuff. But in the process, even though it started that way, it's grown into something much larger because then I got lost in the letters and I wrote the book Letters of Love and Light for Dr. Leo Sprinkle, which is all about his work and all the people that wrote to him. And so it started as kind of a selfish quest to find answers for myself. But now I want to find answers for everybody who experiences. That's why I want to take all of you with me when I go investigate. Like, to me, it's like, we're all in this together. Let's just go figure this out together. And here I'm like, here's what I have. And you guys figure it out. I'm not an expert at everything. Like I just, the elk hunter got me in touch with a geologist, a local geologist, because I want to learn about the Palmer Divide area and the anomalies around the Palmer Divide and the geology of the area and the water of the area. I'm not an expert in all that, but I can bring in experts that can teach us all about it. And we should all learn about that together.
Either way, do you still get a little freaked out by the phenomena because it's so unpredictable?
Yes, for sure. Like going there in the daytime and driving around and going forward, that's one thing. But I would never do that at night. Forget about it. No way. Even in season 1, this happened. So when they were filming and we went back and we had those tracks that came out of nowhere and then they disappeared and then came back and it was like freezing cold. I wasn't prepared. I had jeans on and I had gone over the barbed wire and I fell into the snow. So my jeans were soaking wet. And you see Andy and Paul, they have like icicles in their beard and stuff. And I was like freezing to death. So after we get done filming, they're like, hey, Katie, there's a truck park and the truck was parked facing the wood line, but it was heated. And they're like, you go sit in the truck and get warm. So I'm like, blah, 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 like just getting warm in the truck. And they left me there. They were packing gear or something way back down by the barn. And I'm looking around and the truck's just facing the tree line in the dark. And I was terrified.
On that note, Katie Paige, we have her till the top of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Yes, we're going to continue Rocky Mountain Ranch right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear.
I put a tea bag in my water, in the ice water, and I didn't know if it would work very well, but it's actually really tasty. It has like a raspberry flavor to it. Pretty
Nice.
good. I'm not going to have this more often. They were out of the unsweetened tea at the grocery store. So I'm like, I'll just put a tea bag in here. That's pretty tasty.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Excellent. Excellent.
So I love questions from the audience. So if people have questions, I absolutely love answering questions.
We are getting to those when we come back because we love you. Love you. Yeah.
Yeah. I had some interesting things happen too out last year when we went out to the Snippy the horse site with the King family. Had some anomalous lights in the sky. That's a really interesting area. And then maybe when we come back, we can talk about when we went to that pioneer village. I had something happen to me that's never happened before, so I can share that too.
Oh,
It was
really?
kind of creepy. Yeah.
Creepy.
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 We all like creepy stories.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Don't we all?
I like a good ghost story.
So much fun.
It's interesting. I have no doubt in the belief in ghosts. But I'm still like trying to figure out the rest of it. But ghosts, they exist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've been binge watching a little of the Long Island Medium lately. I watched that years ago, and it's on. I'm like, oh yeah, I like that show.
Me too.
And
Me
the
too.
Hollywood. What is that? Tyler. He does the Hollywood Medium show. Tyler Henry. That's it. I like that show too. Yeah, it's a good one.
I haven't watched that one yet.
Oh, you gotta watch that one. He's great. I think he's really gifted. And I mean, I think some people truly are gifted in that and really have honed in how to. I think with like Teresa Caputo, she actually sees pictures and has symbols for different things, and that's how she's able to understand what's being communicated to her from the other side. And I think she's genuine in what she does. At least I hope so. I would hate to be disappointed.
Me too. Let's not break your heart over that one.
Right.
Let me see here. Well, who's it? T-Bone. Thank you. Thank you, T-Bone. Love the T-Bone. Love the T-Bone. The pride of New Westminster, British Columbia. T-Bone. Morning Castle dude. Hello, free your mind. 11, how are you? Rexamillion. What's happening? Hi, Yennefer. Yennefer prefers a soft J over a hard J. Happy birthday, Canada. Soon we'll be a great nation again.
Do you do fireworks? Oh, no, you don't. You told me because of the trees. You need the drones.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We got about 1 minute, Katie.
Well, happy birthday, Canada.
I had an awesome dinner tonight.
What's that?
I had an awesome dinner tonight.
Oh, what did you have?
So
T-bone?
No. I had coconut shrimp on the side, hot wings on the side, and then this really amazing Brilla beef quesadilla.
Oh, yeah. Love a good quesadilla. We have a great gordito food truck in Woodland Park, and it's the best. It's like really authentic. Now, coconut I could do without, but I'll take the shrimp. But take the coconut off.
Oh, that's amazing. Amazing.
I'm a picky eater. I was really bad as a kid. I've gotten better, but like I don't like my food touching. Can you have your food touch? Unless it's mashed potatoes and corn, that can touch.
Here we go, my dear. We got it coming up in about 7 seconds. Thank you, T-Bone times 2, Dutch Hank, Sandra, and Dave for the amazing super chats. Greatly appreciate it. Here we go. All right, let's kick off the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio or join us on any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, final time tonight. Katie Paige is here. Rocky Mountain Ranch research is what she is doing. It's her lifelong journey as an experiencer to try and figure out what's going on this strange planet. Katie, before we get to audience questions, I asked you earlier about, deep down, everything's a little bit selfish regarding we're trying to figure out what happened to you, what happened to me. And, it's really individualized. How important is it for you to continue to bring the experiencer stories out?
It's very important because I think for me, and I think times are changing in good ways. Some bad, some good, but mostly good. I think these subjects aren't as taboo as they used to be. Back when I was a kid, you was like, oh, you have an overactive imagination, or your mind's playing tricks on you, or it's just an old creaky house, or all these things that kind of made you really question your own sanity a little bit. And I'm kind of sensitive to that, having a half brother, the half brother that I did. So that part of it was always super sensitive to me. And so, yeah, I guess maybe that's why I'm really dogged in what I do, because I need to know, like, this is going on with other people, and I don't like the stigma that's attached to it. So for that reason alone, I think it's super important that people are able to share it. And I like talking to people too that have children. We know that these events happen to children, and it can be quite scary for children to see shadow figures or have an ET event or anything like that. And I want parents to be equipped to know how to talk with children. We don't want to feed them stories of, oh my gosh, yes, this is what it is, and scare them even more. But we don't want them to shut down and think something's wrong or it's their imagination. So, have them draw pictures or write it out and just give them a safe place to share in without judgment. That's important to me as a kid that went through that ridicule. That's an important part of it for me as well.
All right, let's get to another question. This one from Big Kahuna over on X, kicking things off tonight. Oh. Katie, what do you know about the recent UFO sighting by 2 Red Rock Amphitheater employees at Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado?
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I actually just heard about it yesterday. I don't watch a lot of the news, and I've just been busy. So that is something I'm definitely going to look into. I'm kind of ashamed to say I don't have the answers for you on that, but I did hear about it. And I thought there were like 4 or 5 witnesses to this. Just was recently last fall at a concert at Red Rocks, and we got to see the Starlink go right over Red Rocks, and I'm certain it probably wasn't Starlink because most people know what that is by now. So I'll have to research that more. But yeah, I did hear about that yesterday. And
all right, let's go to Sierra. Why are animals being hurt? This is such pointless cruelty. What kind of beings would do this?
Good question. I know there's theories, and I know Christopher O'Brien, Chuck Zukowski, Linda Howe are the mutilation experts, and they have their different theories on, the different maybe blood that they're taking. If it's the government doing it, are they testing the groundwater? And some of these, even in Elbert County, we had the Titan missile silos in New Mexico and through the Midwest. Are they checking groundwater in that? Are they, like in the Carl Higdon case in Rawlins, Wyoming, Carl Higdon is out elk hunting, and he has this encounter, and this being floats 4 food pills over to him because he's kind of curious, like, why are you hunting elk? Are you hungry? Well, if you're hungry, here's some food pills. And according to this extraterrestrial, these food pills actually feed their kind. And so maybe they are making some sort of food for themselves. I don't know. But there's a lot of different theories out there.
Awesome.
And yeah, and maybe they don't see it as cruelty. Maybe it's just like how we eat cow. So, and it's interesting, in countries where they respect the cow, there's not any mutilations there. So that's interesting. Do they know that, hey, we eat cow, so we're going to eat them too? I don't know.
All right. Let's
And
go
why
to
drain the
Andy's
blood?
side.
I don't know.
The people would like to draw to the conclusion the military experiment on live test subjects is wisdom on their behalf. What do you expect about this, or what do you think?
Well, I think that for a long time, decades now, we've been, trying to make super soldiers. I mean, it makes sense. We don't want to send our men and women into war. And so if we can send AI or have other tactics that keep our men and women safe during war, it would make sense that they would experiment and need to experiment on live test subjects. It's awful. We know it's been done. If you look into the history of MK Ultra and some of the things that were done back then. I mean, even there's, a book written that maybe even Charles Manson was part of some of these experiments. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just saying that there's books written about it. So yeah, unfortunately, people have been hurt and even killed in some of these experiments for the benefit of others. So it's just a sad reality, and I'm sure there's a lot of liability and cover up still going on to this day because of that.
Let's go to Polly. What's the risk, in your opinion, of bringing out the news?
Well, the risk, I think she's talking about what is the risk in investigating this stuff. And for me, it's the health risk, number one, and number two, or both equal, is having something maybe that's not so good attached to me, because I do think the phenomenon can be trickster in nature. And so I always just try to stay as positive as I can about that, and bad things stay away. So that's a risk always, because we don't know who or what we're dealing with. In the health risk, of course. And then I think there's also, this is another risk. I am very, what is the word I'm looking for? I'm very cautious and respectful of people that don't want their identities out there, that have jobs, that don't want the stigma. And there's a risk to others coming forward sometimes in that regard, if they're business owners or they have a career that may frown upon this. So that's a risk and a potential. Like, I always worry, oh my gosh, I hope I don't slip up and say, the wrong name, if they don't want their name out there, and those kind of things. So there's a risk in that regard as well.
All right, let's go to Laura. Did you ever investigate the Beast of Bray Road?
I have not. What is Bray Road?
That was 1989, where the Dogman, the Beast of Bray, Linda Godfrey, the late Linda Godfrey, reported.
No, but I'm excited to go down to Trinidad and this bridge that they're investigating on beyond Skinwalker. Now, what I'm nervous about is I actually have to cross that bridge to get over to the Wilson Ranch. And then there's a bridge over in it's kind of like the border of Douglas County and Elbert County. They call it the Fifth Bridge, but it's very similar. It's just like this straight road in the middle of nowhere. Or no, it's the Third Bridge. I'm sorry, not the Fifth Bridge, the Third Bridge. But you can Google it, the Third Bridge in Colorado. And there's a lot of car accidents there, and teenagers, it's kind of like this folklore that is known in the area, the Third Bridge. Like, you don't want to drive at night over the Third Bridge. So that's a weird phenomena in the South, these Bray roads, these weird roads that have just strange, either ghostly phenomena or just these electromagnetic anomalies, or just multiple car crashes for no reason. And then this one woman's car, she had it off, taking a phone call, and the car actually moved into the road.
Let's continue on here. Another question. Let's go to 11, who is asking, I used to live near the Air Force Academy in Colorado. I found it creepy. What's up with Colorado, Katie?
Right. Underground bases, perhaps. I don't know. I mean, we talk about the Dulce base. It's interesting, and this is another path Rocky Mountain research is going down. But I really want to get into the Great Sand Dune area and like Mount Blanca in this area where we have a history of Oppenheimer and a lot of feds that go around here. And what's under Mount Blanca? I don't know. What's under Dulce? Are there tunnels going from NORAD to, who knows where up? Maybe I'm even thinking as far up as into Montana, through Francis Warren and Cheyenne. So there's a lot of military bases, important ones here in Colorado, especially in Colorado Springs. So yeah, there is a creep factor, and we also have a lot of Bigfoot activity here in the Rocky Mountains as well. Jim Myers up there in Bailey has the Sasquatch Outpost. So if you're ever in Bailey, Colorado, stop by and see Jim Myers. We did a Bigfoot hunt with him last summer, and that was a really cool experience to go on as well. They actually found a track. So a lot of activity out here. And, something to that point in high altitude areas, also areas with aquifers, there seems to be increased activity. So I think that plays a part in why Colorado as well.
All right, let's move on. Let's next say hello to Sierra, who is asking, what role do you think trauma plays in learning about the beyond?
Well, it depends on what kind of trauma, but just from a simple standpoint, like for me, I'm sorry, Dad, but he was an alcoholic and he had a temper and he could get pretty violent at times. So when you're a little kid and you're dealing with any kind of trauma, you learn to be intuitive pretty quickly. You learn to read people's faces, what's coming through the door tonight. Is it playful, Dad, or is it go hide, Dad? So I think that makes us people that deal with that kind of a situation, or they have a high stress level in their homes, they become hyper intuitive and sensitive to those little subtle cues that maybe people that don't live in those environments have to pick up on. Also, that disassociation when we leave our physical body because we're escaping into some place that feels safe, we're connecting into something else. And I don't think that ever leaves you once you make that connection. I've also noticed a connection of people that have this love for animals. Oftentimes people that deal with trauma go to animals as comfort. That's why we have, our comfort dogs and our animals like that. So you see that a lot as well. They're more into nature oftentimes as well, because you're escaping into nature. You're escaping into places that are safe. And when you escape into these places like that, you quiet your mind and you connect into something else, and it opens you up to everything else. And I think that's how it plays a part.
Awesome answer. Polly would like to know, what is your most compelling evidence in paranormal and ET phenomena?
Yeah, well, that is, so when I went to Dr. Leo Sprinkle's office for the first time, and I got the original documents, and it was so cool for me because I'm like, oh my God. In there were some sketches of both Sasquatch and this ET being that I never saw, personally, but the other adults in the APRA report saw this being that he doesn't look like anything I had ever seen before. So I kept the drawing. I kept it in my drawer. I didn't put it out anywhere. But he had these heavy brows, wrinkles on the forehead, wrinkles around the mouth. He had these tubes. I call him Tubby Guy now because of Paul Giamatti. I went on Paul Giamatti's podcast, which is a whole other funny story because I didn't know who he was until after I got home. But anyway, but he calls them Tubby Guys. And they have bigger eyes than ours, but not the huge wraparound eyes. Very unique, very long, spindly arms, very long legs. And they had this like contraption or like a protection thing over the torso. And so anyway, so at the time I was the guest speaker coordinator for Colorado MUFON, and I invited a gentleman by the name of Sean Bartog. to come talk about his experiences he had on his ranch property. And in the book, he claims it's in Castle Rock, Colorado, which is still not far from Elbert County and the ranch. But in actuality, his property is 14 miles away from the ranch. We never met each other. I didn't know anything about him. And I'm sitting in the third row watching his presentation, and up pops 2 drawings of almost an identical to-be-guy creature. And I'm like, oh. So to me, that's pretty compelling evidence, because I overlaid his drawing on top of the drawing in Dr. Sprinkles. And like, if you were like at a police station doing having somebody composite sketch a suspect or something, it's like that. Like these 2, you couldn't get more close. And I'm like, okay, there's something to that. Now, whether it's an actual ET being or but the way they're drawn with these, I don't even think a human could fake that, unless they're fake maybe, and they're just in that. I don't know, but it was pretty creepy and pretty compelling.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Totally see where that would be creepy.
Yeah, very creepy.
All right, let's move on to another question. Let's go to Castle Dude in the UK. Katie, have you ever seen the triangle-shaped craft on the dock of Google Maps?
I have not.
I haven't either.
No. But the one report, and it was actually my ex-husband, we filed a report with MUFON. The only time we ever filed a report with MUFON was a report of my husband out in the backyard, sky watching in Centennial. I wasn't up here in the mountains at the time. And he saw a triangle craft fly over. And so, yeah, that was reported. I went inside. We're sitting in the hot tub. So I went in to change and get ready for bed. And my husband saw this thing block out the stars, and he filed a report. They actually closed it as an IFO, which disappointed me, to be honest, because the field investigator, and it was a Colorado investigator, but said that because of the straight line path and the way it was moving, it was headed towards Colorado Springs and probably the Air Force Academy. So it was probably ours. So it's an identified flying object. But I'm like, how can you prove that if you don't know for sure it's ours? So I argued that point a little bit, and I'm still going to argue it.
All right, let's continue on, Katie. Let's go to Android. You mentioned simulation theory. So what do you think of an organic simulation?
Is an organic simulation, is that just like something that we're creating as we go? Like we're creating our reality? Is that what he means by that? Is there a way we can get clarification on that?
We could work on that.
Do you know what being a organic simulation is, Dave?
No.
I think that's what it means. Like you're organically creating your reality. That's what I think he means by that. And in which case, I think that absolutely is part of it. Like, you know how we all can, just by changing our thoughts, we change our reality by being more positive. And I'm working on that myself, so I'm not an expert at this by no stretch of the imagination. I know people who are better at it than I am. But turning your thoughts around to create your organic simulation, or creating the world that you want to live in. And I think if we all tried to do this world would be a better simulation, wouldn't it? So I hope that's what he means. I hope I answered that okay for you.
All right, let's move on. Let's go next to Polly. Have you developed psychic abilities yourself?
Well, I've had a few pretty profound psychic things happen to me that have overwhelmed me a little bit. And it becomes overwhelming for me a little bit. Like my former state director, he lost a child, a quadriplegic child. And she came to me after, and a lot of things happened. And it was so overwhelming. I didn't quite know what to do with it because they had just lost a child. And so him and his wife, I finally, because there was so much, and I was taking pictures of different things that had happened on just different signs and symbols and things that were coming through, different notes that they would say that I didn't even know that they said to each other, that I invited them out to dinner. So we all went out to on the border dinner, and I shared with them everything that had happened to me in these few days. And it was pretty powerful. And it happened a second time with another person that I didn't even know that well. And so I try to unplug that because I think that's such a personal, when you're dealing with people's loved ones and stuff like that, it's hard for me when it comes to that type of mediumship. So yes, a little bit, but I try to unplug it and ignore it the best I can. But I definitely, like, growing up, I thought everybody saw everybody's lives in movies, and I just thought everybody did that. And it wasn't until much later in my life that I realized not everybody, goes to the grocery store and sees somebody's couch and Afghan and cat and, that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, you don't see other people's lives and movies in your head all the time. So yeah, a little bit. I would say yes, a little bit.
All right. Let's go to Polly again. What's your most compelling evidence in the paranormal and ET phenomena?
Okay, like the other question, like the example of the Tubi guy. But I think too, also a lot of the evidence that's coming through, like just the hitchhiker stuff, to me is compelling. Pictures flying off the wall that I'm photographing. Here's the funny thing about paranormal activity: unless you have video cameras in every room all the time, it's hard to capture. I mean, I captured the pictures on the ground after they all flew off the wall, and I pictured this weird quote. So I'm doing laundry downstairs at this house. I'm doing laundry downstairs, and the big screen TV pops up, and it's an old boxing fight. I can't remember who it was or what it was, but a quote came up on the screen and just stood there on the screen. It was something about follow your path. Everything, I was like, follow your path. It'll be okay. Take a picture of this quote. And then the fight comes back on. I'm like, what the hell's that? And why did my TV turn on? Like, weird stuff like that is pretty compelling. The Keurig pot kept coming off so much, so I finally just got rid of the Keurig altogether. Just weird stuff like that. So I like the paranormal evidence, but again, this is so hard because you could say, well, here's a picture of this happening, and they're like, well, yeah, you can just talk. And like, so people are going to doubt your evidence, even if it's good evidence, unless even video evidence anymore with CGI and all the technologies we have, evidence is so easily faked that I'm to the point now that I'm like, okay, all this weird stuff happens. I don't care who believes it. I don't need to prove anything. And so I'll just document it for myself. I'll write it down. I'll take notes in my phone, or I'll take pictures of the stuff that happens. And that's good enough for me. Just so I can say, well, why is this happening at this time? And I suggest that anybody who's experiencing any of these kind of things, that's a good thing to do, is to write down the date, the time, like, I don't know, phase of the moon, other things. Are you emotionally charged? I have found, that's interesting because I have been writing it down. When I'm high stress levels, again, that's the trauma piece. When I'm stressed out to the max and I have a lot of stuff going on, things happen more than when I'm not stressed. So I think stress like amps up paranormal things.
I would agree with you on that. We got under a minute to go. Let's take in one kind of question here. Let's go to Sierra. By tricksters, do you mean malicious?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And is it our own minds that are tricking us, right? Are we seeing what we want to see? When you're seeing large rabbits or owls, or is it what we want to perceive? Because it's so scary for our brains that we're like, I'd rather see a big bunny rabbit, I don't think, it's really hard to assign motive to any of this stuff because we're putting our human filters on it. So I mean trickster in the way that we can't predict when it's going to happen. That's more what I mean when I say trickster. Like they're like turning on the TV downstairs. Like I wish I could go, like, I have a TV right here. I'm like, turn on right now. It's not. So it's a trickster in my mind. I wish it could.
Much love to you. Thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Steve Stockton from Among the Missing, and then my weird weekend coming up.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, I'm clear.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Have a good night, everybody. I am actually going to go get on sweats and get comfortable and watch the rest of your show. That's what
Yes.
I'm going to do. So
Message me afterwards. Tell me what you think, okay?
I will. And I'll be in touch for tips too, as I'm just getting started. So I
right.
hope you guys all go check out that YouTube channel, Rocky Mountain Ranch Research. It really helped me a lot and I'd appreciate it. So thank you
We lo-
guys.
We love you around
Have a
here.
good night. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Kitty Paige, everybody. I'll be right back. Take a break. Kick your shoes off. Get comfy. I am back. Oh, the hat trick for T-Bone. Thank you, T-Bone. Much love for you, my man. Much love. Thank you to T-Bone with a hat trick of super chats. Dutch Hank, Sandra, Aloha Dave, and Gizmo. Thank you for taking care of Spaced Out Radio. We love you guys. Very much appreciate it. UAP Nation, how you doing? Welcome to SOR Chat. Major Lee, how you doing? Travis William Moosetoos, thanks for joining us, buddy. Who else joined us? Let's put that up. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. Jerry Carter, how are you? Thank you for coming on in. Here we go, everybody. Here we go, the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Always enjoy tuning you in with all the weird news each and every night. That's what we do around here. Hey, I want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. You can download those for free. Why? Because we want to. We want to give it away for free. That's the beauty of radio today, man. Why pay for something when you don't have to? Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has hit the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Well, let's find out here, shall we? It is Hematogenesis. Hematogenesis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's say hello to Steve Stockton, who brings us another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. The Goatman is not just a mere campfire tale in Alabama. He is a formidable legend that has been passed down through generations, deeply ingrained in local lore. Unlike other mythical creatures whose origins are shrouded in mystery, the Goatman story has a relatively recent and sinister backstory. Legend has it that in the 1950s, near the small town of Childersburg, a creature was born out of pure madness and vengeance. Its origin is often traced back to a former circus performer who had been driven to the brink of insanity by his fellow performers' cruel mockery. Seeking retribution, he delved into the dark arts, dabbling with rituals involving animal sacrifice and forbidden magic. His end goal was to transform himself into a formidable chimera, a being of immense strength and unbridled rage. However, as with most endeavors that flirt with darkness and chaos, things took a sinister turn. The ritual went awry, twisting his body into an abominable hybrid, part man, part goat. Cursed forever to roam the woods surrounding the site of his transformation, he became a terror that haunted the land for decades to come. But the Goatman isn't content with merely lurking in the shadows. His presence is felt as a heavy weight, a deep unease that settles over those who dare to cross his domain. Tales of his ferocious territorial nature are whispered among locals, particularly around bridges. Some say he holds a special grudge against couples drawn to their vulnerability as they park on secluded roads at night. And when he appears, brandishing his weapon of choice, an axe stained with the blood of his victims, the fury of his tortured existence is palpable. The air crackles with fear and anticipation as the Goatman looms closer, a menacing figure ready to strike at any moment. Throughout the years, rumors of the Goatman have spread like wildfire throughout Alabama, leaving a trail of eerie happenings in their wake. The haunting clip-clop of hooves on asphalt, reports of missing livestock, and the lingering stench of decay. While tangible proof of the creature's existence remains elusive, the sheer number of first-hand accounts, coupled with the bone-chilling details consistent among various tellings, makes it impossible to simply brush off the Goatman as a mere fabrication. It's often told that in the dark of night, a group of teenagers, their youthful bravado igniting their courage, gathered at the bridge rumored to be the domain of the infamous Goatman. Their hearts raced with anticipation as they hoped to catch a glimpse of the creature, eager to prove the legend either true or false. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the stillness, causing their bodies to tremble in fear. And then came the unmistakable sound of heavy hooves pounding against the pavement, getting closer and closer to their car. They scrambled to escape, terror gripping their hearts as they sped away into the safety of town. The image of a hulking figure, its outline eerily illuminated by the moon's pale light, was etched into their minds forever. Upon returning to town, they were met with disbelief and skepticism until they discovered deep, gouging gashes along the sides of their car, marks that could only have been made by an axe, or something far more sinister and otherworldly than any mere mortal weapon. The Goatman of Alabama, a being shrouded in mystery and fear, is a figure that haunts the minds of locals and visitors alike. While some believe it to be mere fabrication, a story used to keep children from straying too far into the darkness, others swear by its existence, those who have experienced the Goatman. The legend looms large over the state's back roads, leaving those who dare to venture out with an unease and a constant vigilance for any signs of the infamous Goatman. Its presence is undeniable, leaving a lasting imprint on the imagination and ensuring that caution is always exercised in these shadowed lands.
And thank you to Steve Stockton for joining us once again to kick off hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio. If you want more stories just like that, all you got to do is head on over to Steve's YouTube channel, Tales Untold, and you'll get more just like that. From the missing to the mysterious, let's bring on the UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
All right. Usually I have a guest on for the UFO report because we don't UAP around here. We don't UAP. We don't like to UAP around here. They're UFOs. UAPs are man-made. Now, this really isn't a UFO report. It's more of a personal encounter that happened this weekend that is, well, we're going to muscle through this because I'll be honest with you. I got scared this weekend. And so did our entire team. There's one very, very great thing I know in my life. And if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I brought on my friend Mark Spender to do an interview on his encounters because he used to be extremely skeptical. But now he is kind of a believer in what's going on. Yeah. Well, let's tell you about the weekend, shall we? We're going to get more into detail in this show on July 17th. And that's when Merle is back on. And we're going to have Samantha Mowat on as well to talk about this. Because what happened in the forest this past weekend affected us all. When we were at this place 1 year ago, we had some incredible experiences with Sasquatch and with UFOs and an alien. Now, it's sad to say that we did not get the alien or UFO this time. I'm not saying that they weren't there. I know Samantha was picking them up. But what happened to us yesterday will stick with us for a long time. So on Friday, we went out into the forest. And we went with a camera crew. So there was 5 of us. We went with our cameraman, Richie. We went with Merle, myself, Samantha, and our armed guard, Mark. So the big question is, why are we going in with an armed guard? Well, let me tell you. We have, in that area where we were investigating, a lot of different animals that could hurt you. Grizzly bears, black bears, mountain lions, lynx, giant moose, wolf packs, coyotes. A lot of predatory animals out there that are dangerous. So on the Friday night, we get there, we start our shoot, and there's a little bit of energy around, not too much. The place is quiet. When we first got up there, we had to go in stages to haul all of our gear in. And we dropped Merle off right at the beginning. And within 10 minutes, Merle had a paranormal experience of watching a zombie-like person walking through the trees, kind of with their head down, their shoulders slouched. He said she looked extremely, I don't even know how to put it, extremely bored, lost. So to describe where we were, from my little town where I live, we were 25 miles into the forest. And there's nobody out there. There's one way in, one way out. And we camped there. Now, I had hesitation of camping there that night and this weekend because it seems like the minute day turns to night there, weird things start to happen. But on that first night, every experiment that we did was for nothing. There was nothing there. No ghosts showed up, no aliens, no Sasquatch, nothing. And it was a little weird because here we were expecting high strangeness to continue. Day number 2, we wake up probably a couple times that night. And if you know me, I hate camping. And I'll tell you the reason why I hate camping. It's because of air mattresses. It's that simple. I love being outdoors. I love being in the wilderness. I love setting up a tent. I love sleeping in a tent. But them damn air mattresses, they always leak. They never stay fully pumped up. That drives me nuts. Absolutely nuts. So because of my hatred for air mattresses, I don't camp. I wish they could build an air mattress, and I've tried them all. I've tried the El Cheapo ones that you can buy at Walmart for like $20. I've even went and bought like one of those $150 air mattresses that, you know, has its own stand. So you're about 1.5 feet, 2 feet off the ground, like a bed. They never hold their air. Usually you find a hole with them within 24 to 48 hours. Waste of money. So I hate air mattresses. That's why I don't camp. They rank up there with soccer and breakfast for dinner. Can't stand them. But the area was beautiful. We had good weather, rained a little bit, and nothing was going on. Nothing. Until night 2. We started some experiments like the Estes method and Gansfeld experiments and ghost box sessions, and we started to get some interaction. We started to get some interaction with some voices. Now, when I was doing the Estes method, I started hearing voices of men and women, and all I was doing was calling out the words. I don't know what questions were asked. I haven't seen the tape yet. Samantha kept on getting the same woman over and over again with an accent that she had never heard before. And it almost sounded robotic. Some may even say alien, who was talking about lots of different things. There was nothing around us. Everything seemed peaceful. The forest seemed eerily peaceful. We go to bed that night like nothing happened. We ended up packing up on Sunday morning because all of our batteries were dead and we needed to get them charged. So we went back to SOR HQ and decided that we would go back for one final night because we hadn't finished filming. But this time we weren't going to camp there. No, we weren't going to camp there at all. 2 nights was enough. And the weather was supposed to be changing. And you can't really do anything with dead batteries. It's hard to film when you have no power. So we came back to SOR HQ. We all caught a nap for a couple of hours. Charged up the batteries. Stopped at Tim Hortons before making our way back out into the field. Hey, what else are you supposed to do the day before Canada Day? You got to go to Tim Hortons. You really do. And we make our trek back in. There was no eerie feeling. There was no nothing. We set up our base tent so we could put all of our gear underneath it. And then this thunder and lightning storm came in. And we waited out the storm, but it had this feeling that there was something different. And Samantha made a comment about the fact that it was different than the last 2 days we were there. We didn't really know what it was. It didn't really feel ET, alien, or anything like that. And this is where things started to get a little bit weird. We decided that we wanted to get a shot of just roaming around and hopefully something would happen where we could create a little bit of flair for dramatics in our filming. And Mark would have to cock his shotgun. Little did we know that that was a premonition of things that were going to happen. Why? Because we're in the middle of the forest and weird things happen where you are standing in a place where many people passed away coming up to its 59th anniversary of a plane crash. It was so weird. A beautiful rainbow came into the sky after the thunderstorm that we waited about 45 minutes to an hour to pass over us. If it would have continued, we would have canceled the shot. but we decided to wait it out. And up here at around 8 o'clock or so, it's still daylight out. It's not getting dark yet. You could still see, even though the sun is dimmer, you can still see things. And I walked down the path towards the exit from base camp. And I start getting pulled into the trees. Just feeling that I needed to go into the trees and see what was there. I felt a real pull, like every goosebump on my body was standing up. Totally standing up. And I was in the bush, about 20 feet off the trail. Hello? Who's there? What brings you here? Are you here to see us? Would you like to communicate with us? I could feel you looking at me. Why don't you come out and say hi? Nothing did. So after about 10, 15 minutes of this, I go back on the trail towards Samantha, and Richie, our cameraman, eventually Mark and Merle come down because we figure we're going to film down this trail. Let's see what's over here. And the funny part about it is where I was being called into the trees is the exact place as last year Samantha Mowat and I felt the pull that there was extraterrestrial energy watching us. Exact same place. And I pointed that out to Samantha. And we found it kind of ironic, maybe even synchronistic. So we continue on with the team and we're setting up shots about what's going on. You know, typical TV stuff where you have to set up and do your filming and then cut. And then you go and you do your next little shot. Cameraman runs up, does the next little shot of you guys moving around and so on and so forth. And then we come off our main trail that goes to camp. We hang left on another trail. And as we're going, we're talking about this feeling about what is in the bush. Now, I don't hear very well because I have tinnitus in my ears. Some people call it tinnitus. It's like potato, tomato, tomato, tinnitus, tinnitus. And Merle, who's ahead of me, keeps hearing things move in the trees in the area where I was. Now, we want to be a little bit skeptical here, okay? I may talk a lot of woo. I love the woo. But we don't know what it was. But every now and again, you'd hear a little branch crack on the ground, a little shaking of the tree branches. And you know something's in there. You have no choice but to continue. So we get to the point where the previous year, where we saw the alien and the UFO, and we continued on to the path. And we kept walking down that path, which was heading southwest. And that's where Samantha saw something weird on the ground. She found a footprint. And it was fresh. To hear the rest of the story, you got to tune in for the next half hour on Spaced Out Radio, because we're going to get into the juice of my encounter this weekend with something strange in the British Columbia forest. My name is Dave Scott. This is Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott.
I am so not over this. Here I am about 35 miles from where this happened. And I'm still rattled. Hi, Jeff Steve Garvey. He'll hit a home run for you. Castle Dude, we'll get into that. I went camping and didn't eat a single smoky or hot dog. I'm so tired. So tired. Don't mind me. All right. Do 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 do. Bomber, I know what you're talking about, but we should always celebrate the good of Canada. Dear leader will hopefully be gone soon, and don't let his policies dictate the love that you have for your country. JSCO, how you doing? Probably could have used a teddy bear. Why a woman? That doesn't make sense because I like women. Felipe, how you doing, man? We had both Android. Hi, Katie Paige. the Michael Leger. Thank you to T-Bone times 3, Sandra, Dutch, Hank, Gizmo, and Sandra and Dave for the super chats. Here we go. All right, here comes the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott, sharing some interesting stories. Yeah, a reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, our archives are always free. We don't charge for them. Why would we? We leave that to the other people who are trying to steal your money. Ours are free. Go to youtube.com/spaced out radio or hit up any major podcast network. The only thing I want in return is hit the follow or subscribe button. I think that's a fair trade. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, we're going to continue with my story here about what happened this weekend in the British Columbia wilderness. And this is where it gets weird. Samantha finds a footprint. Samantha Mowat. We continue down the path. Can feel the energy on the left of the path following us. Merle can hear it. Mark can hear it. Then all of a sudden it just fades away. But we continue down that path and we start finding really fresh bear tracks. Black bear tracks. Not a full-grown bear, but big enough that it might be stupid to do something. That's where Mark got a little bit interesting. Cocked his shotgun because you could tell by the tracks that the bear was just there minutes ago. And we continue down the path. And I'm listening to Mark. Hey, bear. Where are you, bear? Hey, bear. Hey, bear. Like taunting it. Now, one of the things that we have a rule with when we bring any type of firearm into the forest is we always put out a verbal reminder to anyone or anything that is listening that under no circumstance will this rifle be raised in their direction for safety. We come in peace, love, and light, man, just like the hippies. And we need to make sure that they don't attack us. Because I'm pretty sure something 10 feet, 500 pounds could pretty much rip your arm off and smack you with it a few times before handing it back. But there are there are apex predators out there that are willing to hurt you because they're not the smartest. They're not the sharpest tools in the shed. They may be not running on all tires. One or two of them may be flat. So here we are. We never saw the bear. And we decided to head back to camp. We had marked the footprint. And it felt like the energy was backing away. And the team is kind of looking at me for this. And I kept pointing my arm towards base camp, saying the energy feels like it's shifted behind base camp. It's back in the area where we had our encounter with the samurai chatter back in 2018. So We head back to base camp. I'm kind of watching that direction of where I'm picking up that energy. The camera guys, Merle's kind of a camera guy because he likes all that geek tech stuff. He's helping out our cameraman, Richie, get ready. And Mark is kind of wandering around. Samantha's grabbing something to drink. And about 10 feet from our tent, Mark says, "You guys aren't going to believe this." But 10 feet away, there's a fresh Sasquatch track right by our camp. The sunlight hit it just perfectly to see the toes, the dermal ridges, and the heel. Now, that's very hard ground out there where even my vehicle up there doesn't leave an imprint on the ground. Tire tread barely leaves an imprint. So we measured the track. We know it was a left foot. We measure the track, and it was 17 inches long. 17 inches by about 4 or 5 inches wide. That's a big foot for a Bigfoot. And it was heading in the direction exactly where I was picking up the energy. So that was good for confirmation. Sam and Mark decide at some point a little bit later to go recheck the other print to measure it. That one also happened to be exactly 17 inches. They are about 65 yards apart, 60 yards apart as the crow flies. Two different prints, or pardon me, two prints, two different areas, same size. It's like, come on. That's a little too weird. So I grab a camera with Samantha. We start, kind of going into the area where this creature may have looked. We're looking for other prints. And up in that area, there's a piece of landing gear from the airplane that crashed. And in 2018, Merle was standing by that piece of landing gear when a Sasquatch had snuck up to him. I should mention before we go any further, we did not have an opportunity to cast the prints because there were no real edges to get the plaster into them. And it was on an angle. What we should have done, which we didn't, amateur mistake, was we should have got some sort of baby or talcum powder to sprinkle it gently around the print. So that way it would have created a better outline. So now I have to go to the drugstore, pick up some talcum powder, and put that with my Bigfoot gear. You see, it's all about learning how to do this. And you learn by trial and error. So Samantha and I take the camera up, what we call the vlogging camera. And we take that, we walk to the landing gear where Merle got chased out in 2018 when a creature snuck up about 20 feet behind him. And we're looking around, and Samantha sees on this tree in between us and the landing gear this 7.5 foot, straight as an arrow, looks like a staff/walking stick. And it's dry. That's the weird part about it was we had just had a downpour for almost an hour in a thunderstorm. and this stick was bone dry. The other weird part about it too was because we were allowed a a fire out there in the forest, because it's been so damp and wet around here, we did build a fire in a safe area, of course. And yes, we put it out before we left. Safety first. We'd cleared almost that entire area of firewood or wood that just needed to be burned in order to help clean up the area. So as Samantha and I are looking at this stick, which is unusually dry, at about 3 feet down, or 3 feet from the bottom of the stick, there is this wet look to it. Like it was like it had been gripped and placed there. And that was the grip, whatever it was that carried it there. Now, I will say this, in the initial footage that Merle has looked at, because Merle is very skeptical himself, and he'll talk about this when he's here in a couple weeks. There was no stick standing vertically with that tree in any other footage that we have. No stick. We would have noticed it. We crossed that path at least 8-9 times that weekend. And there was no walking stick there. Now, the other interesting part about this walking stick was that it had fresh dirt on the bottom of it. Like it looked like it had been twisted and pulled out from the ground. And fresh dirt was stuck on the bottom of it. That was weird. But we were thankful. We think we got a gift there, so we left something in return. We did. Because that's what you need to do. And in that area, we do not leave food. We do not leave food at all in that area as a gift back, because number one, we don't want any animal sniffing our food and then expecting us to feed them more. We don't want them coming into our territory. Why? Well, that's for obvious reasons. That's safety. So we go back, we start some experiments, and we're pausing, waiting for the cameraman to get ready. And old Richie likes to take his time because he's a perfectionist. And Mark starts picking up that it feels like there's 5 of them there. There's male Sasquatch, female Sasquatch, 2 younger, 1 boy, 1 girl. They're separated by about 50 feet in the forest. And they're all looking at us. But the 5th one, Mark says he's almost like an aggressor bodyguard type. And he's back in the distance, kind of watching us, what we're doing. Not sure why we're here. Now, granted, we have no proof of this. None. We're only going off of our intuition and what we filmed. So Merle sets up on this log where we're conducting experiments. He sets up a night vision camera. Unfortunately, the night vision camera caught nothing. But as we are sitting under the tent, filming our next portions of the investigation, as the night got darker and drew on, the forest started becoming a little restless. Restless how, you say? Well, one of those big whatever it may be's started circling us. Mark cocked his shotgun again. He never fired, but he cocked it again to make the noise, try and intimidate whatever is out there. Because for most animals, and I'm saying high percentage, 90% over, the minute they hear a gun get cocked, they know, because they are smart enough to know that bad things happen. Whether it's a very loud bang, whether it's a big boom or a rat-a-tat-tat, whatever your gun sounds like. So this thing, as we were asking questions to this, Merle has this candle that it works like almost an EMF detector that goes on and off at the spirit's doing. So we got to have it go on and off a couple of times, but whatever was in the forest was starting to give off that uneasy feeling of, hey, boys and girls, it's time for you to go. Now, Mark stated by the sound of the footsteps and the grunting that he heard, this thing was less than 20 yards from us. Now, looking back, because we did panic, when something that big wants to leave, you leave. And we can't guarantee that it's a happy little Sasquatch that is just as curious about us. Mark said the way that it was moving, it wasn't gingerly. It wanted him to know that it was there. And it was making a semicircle around us. So we hustled to pack up our vehicle to drive away. Now, this is going to look a lot better on film than it does my words trying to describe everything and the emotion of it all. But it was scary because when I'm out in the forest, I trust Mark with everything. He's been doing this. He's 53 years old. He's been doing this for 45 years, playing out in the forest. He knows what a bear sounds like. He knows what a cougar sounds like, what a fox sounds like, what a baby fawn deer sounds like. He knows how a grizzly bear can make noises. He knows what black bears do. He knows everything. And he knows how to survive. Because in the wilderness, no matter whether you're armed or not, you have to know how to survive. That's kind of important. So when Mark started getting a little bit of hesitation being there and was literally like, guys, we need to leave now, it was panic time in the forest. We quickly packed everything up. We drive to unload the vehicles, Merle and I, so that way I could go get the rest of the people. 3 more. Merle hops as we're pulling up the hill towards Samantha's truck. Merle looks at Samantha's truck, and the ghost he saw on Friday is sitting in the passenger seat of his truck. Freaked him out. Spirit disappears. We throw the gear on the ground. He hops in Samantha's vehicle, locks the doors. I take off back down into the gully, up the gully to get the rest of the guys. And I guess during that time, Merle kept on hearing voices walking around the truck and like sifting their legs through the grass. He locked the doors and he just waited for us to get back. It was only gone maybe 4 minutes when all of this happened. Freaky, freaky stuff. When you go from being curious and inquisitive, trying to film what's out there, really cool to find the 2 prints. Weirder that they are both 17 inches long. Find the long staff. which Merle took home. And you end it with a paranormal experience like that. I'm still uncomfortable with it all. I don't like what happened. And I told the team after, we went for coffee afterwards. I told the team, I said, I'm not going back. But more increasing on my part, because Mark, our armed guy, said, I'm never going back there. There is something at that crash site that is so Skinwalker Ranch-esque, minus the cattle mutilations. I think it was this. And this is my opinion and my opinion only. And if you want to believe me, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. I think the Sasquatch are there to protect the spirits from the deceased of that plane crash in 1950 or 65. That's what I believe. I could be wrong. Might be impossible. But it just seems logical. It scared the crap out of us all. When you are being hunted by something you can't explain, and it ain't on four legs, and there is no people out there because there is one way in and one way out, and you're at the end of the trail of the one way out, or one way in, pardon me, you know. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. You can take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Yeah, I don't recommend. If you have any questions about this weekend, put them in capital letters, just like Joe did. Yes, Joe, we did. We did leave a gift back. Problem is, we're all too chicken shit to go up there to see if they actually take it. It's not good when you're being stalked, guys, especially by something unknown. If the staff was holly or maple, I would have left it without touching. It was neither. Rock and Rory, how you doing? Deadfish, how you doing? Lex Diaz, how you doing? Ozzy Ange, how you doing? Hi, Christine Lynn. Simon asks, Dave, will you be able to release the footage, and where can we see it? So what's going to happen here in the next few weeks, Merle, who has the footage, he will be cutting up a sizzle reel that we're going to send to a few people. Worst case scenario, it's going to get all edited, and we are going to put it on our Facebook page. Not Facebook. What the hell? I'm so tired, guys. I can't even speak or think right now. We'll put it on the YouTube channel. Okay, on this one. And Samantha and Merle will share it on theirs as well. We're hoping it doesn't do that. But, hey, it is what it is. Lex, the staff was about that round. So about almost 2 inches round, 2.5 inches round. It got thicker at the bottom, real thin at the top. It was about 7.5 feet long. There was nothing. We felt them around. It felt like they were around, but any ETs never showed themselves to us, not even a UFO, which was highly disappointing. But maybe that wasn't the message this time of why we needed to be there. That's the way we're looking at it. Robbie G, when looking for Sasquatch becomes Sasquatch looking for you. Pretty much it, my man. Just wanted one fleeting glimpse. But that's all right. I apologize for the yawn. The video will be titled Something in the Woods. The title of our team is The Hunted, with the caption, Who's Hunting Who? Moody Mongol, how you doing? Yes, we gave them a couple of coins. Rock and Rory is asking, it's hard to research when you have multiple things going on. Have you thought about an area away from the crash site? Yeah, we have another Sasquatch area. Yeah, we totally have another Sasquatch area. And probably head back there maybe this weekend. Good night, Katie Paige. Tomorrow night on the show, Geraldine Orozco will be here for the Spiritual You and her monthly gift to us, which is her presents, showing off her shoe collection. That's always fun. Yeah, I turned it off. I turned it off. See, I don't even have to point it. I can just do it here. See? Here, I'll even do this one for you. Do you use red light at night? We did use red light last night, yes. All right, guys, I've hit my wall for the night. Geraldine Orozco tomorrow night here. Thank you, Lisa Davey. Thank you tonight to T-Bone with a hat trick, Dutch Hank, Sandra, Aloha Dave, and Gizmo for the super chats. We'll see you all tomorrow night, everybody. Thank you for tuning us in. Talk soon.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.